Go green or go home. So I would like to start by basically explaining kind of like what I want to do with this channel and kind of where I see this thing going and like my vision for this channel and what I think that it could become. So ever since I was like 16 years old, I've always wanted to live off the grid, and I just always was obsessed with the idea, and I've never stopped thinking about it. I maybe in some way or another, since I was about maybe even younger than that, there's always been this drive in me to like get away from the city that I was living in and just be free and just be away from everything that was just so noisy to me and like in my atmosphere, in my circle, you know. And it's just insane how this thing kind of went from just being a dream, me daydreaming every day when I was in school, when I was at work. When I would work, I would daydream all the time. And I kind of want to take you guys back to where it all started so that you can see where it's going. And so right around 16, I started really being conscious about this idea. And it was really funny because one day I was just sitting in my room, and I was still going to school, and things was pretty normal, you know. And I was like, yo, what can we do like right now? What can we do to kind of like start actively, pursuing this dream? And so I just started YouTubing, some stuff, basic stuff. Like at the time I was getting into raising chickens, and I just became obsessed with the idea that I could raise my own livestock, even if it was on a small scale, you know. And so I started researching videos about how to incubate eggs. I even got to the point where I built my own incubator, and I got some pretty surprising results out of it, and the rest is history. Like, it went from chickens to like everything else, you know. Like, as many of you know, like a lot of these things start so small and they gradually progress and become something ginormous. And so I went from doing that and being successful on a small scale, and I made a lot of mistakes too, don't get me wrong, but I learned from it. And I really liked it, and I thought, man, what more could I do that could not only impact my life but everybody around me? And one of the things that always drove me to want to do better was like the thought that like I could produce, at the time, because I was so young, I was like, I could produce food for my mom, you know, so that she won't have to like be complaining about the store bought food, you know, because a lot of times my mom was very keen about, our nutrition and things being like prepared right, the ingredients being like healthy foods and things of that nature. So I was always constantly striving for a better way to produce the food that we would eat. And so that's what I started with. Chickens was easy, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. And like she gave me good feedback, and she helped me understand that like this was some good food that we were creating, you know. And it was just so interesting because I thought, well, it's just an egg. It's just something you can incubate, and then all of a sudden it can turn into this whole dish, this whole gourmet bomb, like very tasty food, and nobody that lives outside of this reality understands how much better food can really be, and to the extent of like how far someone can go to actually produce a better plate. And and so that's what kind of got this whole thing going. That's how it started anyways. And as I got a little older, I got out of high school, and I had this idea that I don't want to go to college, because I felt like college was just going to be somewhat of a deterrent for me and what I was trying to accomplish in life. And that's not to say that later on in life, maybe I'll go to college, maybe I can get a better education, that would be amazing, right? And I would love that. But that wasn't the case when I was that young. I honestly, like, coming out of high school, I was like, I don't even want to be there. Like, I never wanted to be in school, to be honest with you. But I loved it. I mean, I didn't mind being social with kids, and just being somebody that could be of a good presence around my peers. And getting out of high school, I just wanted to run. I just wanted to run away from anything that had to do with educational systems, the way that the way that the society that we live in perceives education, and the way that you're supposed to do it. And so I ran away from all that, and I just really just wanted to start working wherever I could. I wasn't picky. I just wanted to get some experience, anything that could help. And it's crazy, because something that was so simple, it just turned into this huge mess. Like, you go from, oh, I was raising chickens, and on a really small scale, I'm talking maybe just 20 chickens max, like, it wasn't nothing crazy. And to go from that to then getting a little older and having a little bit more money in my pocket. And I remember this one year, I was like, I must have been like 19 or 20, and I got to the point where I hatched successfully 200, like 150, 200 chicks. And I just started to realize that these things can really multiply, and these systems can really be brought to life, that you can be a better designer. You could really pay attention to the things that matter, the little things, and so, like, I just started working, and I was working at restaurants, and I learned a lot about food when I started doing that. And I learned a lot about customer service, and how to treat people, and like, I started finding out what works and what doesn't for me. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not really good at restaurant work, because it was just so tiresome and really repetitive. So I didn't really like it, but I learned a lot. I was doing that kind of work for like maybe like 2 years, and then like I turned, like, I was like 18, 19, and my brother actually had been working as an electrician for some time, and I had my dad, he's always been a construction worker since I can remember. And so I've always had this background in like a skill set, in like a trade, so I just gravitated towards that, and I thought, what an awesome way to learn something new that isn't food, but like that can still maybe impact my life on the terms of off-grid. And so that was the concept. That was always the concept in my mind, was what can I do to be better for for the homestead reality? What can I do to always have the advantage in places like the off-grid situation? And so it was almost like a very natural thing for me to try something like that. Even though it was intimidating, I thought, electrical, man, this is crazy. This is a whole trade. This is a whole like job that people do for a living, and that they do it for years, you know. So I was intimidated by all this, and I just remember thinking like you really do got your work cut out for you, you know. And I was just so terrified of feeling like I was gonna be a failure. So fast forward to like me actually applying, and then I got accepted to the local union that of the city that I was living, that I was born and raised in, you know. And it changed my life. It made things like so different. And just the dynamic of my living, like in my head, my living space, it was just so different now. Like everything just got a little bit more complex. And I was able to start learning systems and circuits and everything that has to do with commercial electrical work. And I just remember being so hungry, because I just knew that someday I was gonna need it. I was just gonna need it all, you know. And I did that work for 3 years. A lot of overtime, a lot of good hard work, you know, a dedication every day, you know. And I just remember getting to the point when I was kind of like it was just getting old. Like I was doing it for a while, and I just felt like I was hitting like a roadblock, because I didn't think that I was learning as much as I was when I first started. Like it seemed like it started to kind of like close in on me, and it just got a little bit boring. And I just remember like thinking, dang, how many more questions can I ask these experienced electrical workers, all these electricians that I'm around all the time? Because I was constantly asking them questions like, oh, well, how would you wire this up? Oh, well, if I was just trying to do something simple, how would you do that? And I got to the point where I became sort of a pro. I was actually able to do the work that they do. I was able to do it at their pace. The quality of work was there, you know? And I just felt like I finally hit that like level that I wanted to hit. And I no longer felt like I needed to be there. I just felt like, yo, you're ready. Like, what's next? What else can we do? Because we got this huge dream. We got this huge project that we want to work on. But this electrical wasn't it. Like, that's just part of it. That's only a piece of the pie. Like, there's so much more. Like, I always felt like when I was done with electrical, I felt like I'm still like nowhere. I still haven't gotten nowhere with this thing. And since I was an electrician, while I was doing that, I was actively investing into this idea, and it pretty much boiled down to this one job I was doing as an electrician. I was in Death Valley, of all places, doing work at the historic hotel. There they have like a hotel, it's like a resort. And they were just doing this huge project at the time. It was like 2018, something like that. And I just remember that I got put on this job, and I was doing all kinds of work that was more related to residential work, because a lot of the electrical work I was doing was in big facilities, big projects that were very complex and that had really nothing to do with small systems. So it's weird, because what I wanted out of electrical, I didn't get it right away. It took forever. Like, because I was focused on, they had me focused on other things, like you know, like running pipe and doing huge electrical systems, like, you know, installing huge panels, installing transformers, running all kinds of huge underground pipe. Uh, I mean, learning about lighting circuits, just everything and anything that you can think of that has to do with electrical. I was working on it, but I couldn't ever really boil it down to like something that would work for me on the homestead. So it was just so conflicting, because I was like, how do I know so much about this, but I can't even wire up a shed. I can't even wire up this like small project from start to finish. So it was really frustrating, very. And I just remember like being frustrated, but then actually getting to the point where I was like, okay, but like, you got to start. You got to actually work on this thing. You got to actually do it. And so luckily at that job that I was working on, I was getting a lot of overtime, and they were paying per diem, and it was just a lot of fun. Like, I was just able to be there like six days out of the week, sometimes 7. And it was just an everyday thing. So I knew I was being consistent with my money, and I was making quite a bit. At the time, it was the most money I'd ever made, which was like anywhere from, it was ranging from, depending on the week, because some weeks it would be a little less hours than other weeks, but on a busy week, I was making, like on a 6-7 day, 10-hour week, I was making like anywhere from 13 to 1700, and I've always only claimed single, so that's after all the taxes and stuff. It's a lot of money what I was able to take home for being so young. I was like, maybe at the time I was like 20. So for me, that was a huge privilege. I didn't have a lot of money or I didn't have a lot of things to spend my money on. I had a car that I was already paid off. I was living pretty minimal in hopes that like I could actually do this thing that in my mind was just constantly blowing up. So I got to the point where I was able to save up like around $5,000. I asked my brother if he could help me, and we tried to build this like Tesla battery. It was like a DIY Tesla battery. It was crazy, dude. I spent like $1,000 on lithium ion cells, and we tried to put this battery together. It was crazy because I knew how dangerous it was, and I guess we weren't really like worried about that because we were hoping that our research was going to pay off, and based on like the amount of work that we've done, then we can have the experience to work out the kinks, you know. And so we bought the stuff to make this battery. We bought a couple solar panels. I bought a camping trailer. I just try to do the bare minimum to get us from point A to point B. And so my dad, he had bought this piece of land in Arizona when I was a little kid, and he never did anything with it. And when I was younger, my mom would tell me, well, if you are gonna want to utilize that land, let us know now. Like, I was like 15, 14 at the time, and she's like, let us know now so that we don't ever sell it, you know. And I was like, oh well, yeah, matter of fact, like, I think I'm gonna need it, you know. So I was like, definitely, like, hold on to it, please, until I'm old enough that if I really want to pursue that I can, you know. And thanks to them, I was able to let them know that maybe, you know. And so right around when I was 20 years old doing this work in Death Valley, I was like, boom, like, this is it. Like, I got the land. I paid for the survey on the land. Like, I had the basics. Like, I was like, boom, we got this trailer, and we can just go. And we could go, and we could just never look back, you know. And something terrible happened when we were trying to get this battery to function, and my brother had said that everything was good and that we should be straight. And to be honest with you, none of it was good, because I knew we were buying components that weren't even compatible, on the solar system. So it was just very strange, kind of what we were doing. And if you don't know anything about starting new things, it's just always super stressful, because a lot of times you're just shooting in the dark. You don't really know what's going on. So one day we got to a point where the trailer was sitting in my parents' house, and it was pretty much like the basics were in it to be off grid. So we were trying to kind of do some test runs to make sure that it would work before we would take it over to Arizona and live off the grid. So first day we tried it. Check this out. We turned it on, and then it just didn't work. And we were like, well, maybe the batteries just need to charge up a little bit or something. And we're just like, all right, well, we'll leave it on and we'll see what happens, And long story short, we ended up leaving it on, and then we left it alone. And then I got a call from my dad, and he was like, oh, your trailer's on fire. And I was like, what? No way. I was like, I felt like my whole world just stopped, and I no longer had control of it. And I just remember thinking, dang, how am I ever gonna make that money back so that I could maybe try again? But at the time I felt like a failure, and I just didn't feel like I could ever safely do exactly what I wanted to do. So it was very frustrating. And after that, it actually took about 2 years before I actually kind of restarted again, because it was just I don't know how to explain it, but it was just so such a big failure for me. And I just didn't want to try it again. I just thought, man, maybe this isn't for me, and maybe I should go try something new, and maybe I'll be good at something different, So I pretty much just put that dream on hold, and it was just always in the back of my mind, maybe, at some point, maybe I could do enough research and come up with a better plan, So meanwhile, that's all brewing. I got out of the electrical, the electricians union. I got out of that, and I kind of just started just shutting down. I just felt like I didn't really want to move forward anymore with anything, and it wasn't because of that, but it was just because of the fact that I already felt like I was hitting a threshold that I couldn't get past. It was to get to the next level of being the best electrician, I was gonna have to spend at least another 10 years there. So I figured, you know what, this isn't really worth my time, because I understand the basics. So I'm just not gonna do all that. For what? I'm 20 years old. I did 3 years worth of this work, and I get it. So moving right along. And so I went from doing that to being an iron worker. And that was a whole nother trip, you feel me? Because it's just a super different topic, It's just a different line of work for a different type of person. And and my dad, that's what he is. He's a welder, he's an iron worker, and he's union. So it was just super easy for me to gravitate towards that, because at the time, I felt like doing something that he was doing. So I was like, maybe we could connect like that, and maybe we could understand each other better and have more respect for each other. So I did that. I tried it. I got in. At the time, man, work was busy, and there was just all kinds of work, and so everything was great, I was like, great, awesome, I can start something new. and they enrolled me in school, and it was just awesome. Everything was great. And but I knew, like, from the start that, again, I wasn't really gonna want to do this forever, because that wasn't the plan from the jump. The plan was to learn as much as I could in the situations I was in, and gain as much experience that one day I could translate into the off-grid living situation. So I learned, fast forward, dude, I learned a lot. I got my welding certs, and I learned a lot about rigging and cranes, and pretty much how the whole work of ironwork moves, and how it's supposed to gravitate and go from start to finish. So once I got the best grip I could on that, I was trying to finish my apprenticeship, okay? Because I was like, best bet is I become a journeyman, and at least, like, I could always make money with that. I could always fall back to that, and like I won't need to like worry about anything, because the money's there, and it's journeyman money, and they got benefits and all that. So I was like, great. Like, and then something happened this one day, and I had a really weird situation with COVID happening. School just became a place, like the ironworking school just became a place where it just was super uncomfortable, and it was weird, and it was when they had shut down the school, and then we weren't going to school for a while, and then they tried to open it back up, and the teachers were being really strict about, like, social distancing, and how, like, you're gonna get in trouble if you don't, and I just felt like I just didn't want to do all that. I was just like, nah, like, that's not what I came over here to do. Like, I just came here to work, and I come here to learn. I don't come here to get all these complaints about how we're just not 6 foot apart, or I'm drinking water and my buddy's right here, and oh, we're not 6 foot apart. And it was just, it might seem foolish, but it just, the teachers were just, well, the specific teacher that I had that week, she was being real stern about it, so I wasn't having it. And so then we had an argument, and then I left. I was just like, I'm done. I'm good. Like, I learned enough. Like, I got it. And I don't really need this anymore. I'm going to go do something new. So I left the school, and previously, before the pandemic happened, I got laid off anyways, and work was dead. There was no work nowhere. Everything was like crazy. Like, it was just you guys know, everybody knows. It was crazy in the beginning. So I was just like, whoa. And by that time, when I was an iron worker, I managed to invest into this property. So I bought this tiny shed. I started coming out here and working on it every now and then. And I just always tried to come out here and do something and work on it. But it was just so, like, exhausting, because I didn't have no help. I wasn't really asking for help, that was the thing. I didn't really want help, because I always felt like, well, maybe that's just a shortcut out of this, and maybe people are not gonna be as enthusiastic about what I'm doing, because it just sounds ludicrous. It's crazy. Like, my parents had this piece of land, and it was just, there was nothing on it. There's no water. There's nothing, like, how do you think that's fun, and it's so far away. Like, I know people probably thought I was crazy. So I was like, whatever, I'll do it by myself. And every now and then I would try to, ask a friend here and there, like, if I needed help, I'd try to get them to help. And a lot of times they couldn't, or like, nobody's gonna really care about this stuff, So I ended up having to do most of it myself. Like, I bought this shed, And then I just started doing all this electrical work to it. I didn't have no panels, nothing. It was just kind of like I was just doing all this prep work, you know, trying to get this thing situated, trying to like figure out what I could do while I could do it, you know. So I did quite a bit of investing during that time. And right as soon as the pandemic happened, I got laid off. I decided to come out here, and I said, well, I'm not going to waste my time trying to look for work and doing all this and that. Luckily, I had got unemployment, you know, and I was able to just kind of, you know, be here and not worry about money. Like, I still had to worry about money, but it wasn't as bad as it could be, you know, because like I said, I don't have a lot of expenses, so it wasn't that bad for me. I was like, cool, we'll do this. I'll do it. Let's do it. So I went from being an iron worker to all of a sudden I'm unemployed with really no future in that industry. So I just figured, like, I don't really know how we got here this fast, but hey, whatever, let's take advantage of the time. So, and I also wanted to stay away from everybody because I didn't know how bad this pandemic, this virus was gonna be. So I was like, nah, I'm straight. Like, I'll just stay all the way over there, away from everybody, and we'll just see how this thing goes, you know? So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got here to being off the grid. And it's just, it's crazy to know, like, everything that kind of happened after that. But I was able to build a fence around my property. And I started to try to knock out these big projects that were, like, you know, time consuming and they were consuming a lot of my money. And I just didn't care. I was just like that's what I need. I need a fence, because if not, how am I going to do permaculture projects? If the cattle, because they free range cattle here. So I was like, well, that ain't going to work. And there was just a lot of things that were just such a problem in the beginning. And they still are. I'm not even going to lie to you. There's still so many problems. This is actually the beginning. But to get here to the beginning, this is kind of all the things that I had to go through. And so once I was here and I built the fence, then I was able to buy solar. I was able to buy some solar, like a full solar equipment. And my neighbor, he helped me install it, thank God. And at the time, like I said, I've never really known that much about solar, so it's always been something that was a mystery to me, but I knew that I needed it if I wanted to actually move forward. Like, if I want to live comfortably off the grid, I gotta have electricity. I gotta be able to charge my phone and turn on lights and do all kinds of stuff with leisure. I didn't want to be out here struggling either, you know? So that's what I did, and in a weird way, like, the solar worked out. It actually worked. And I just, for once in my life, I felt like, wow, like, talk about spending like $15,000 to $20,000 in a short amount of time during the pandemic, and prior to, you know, with all the other, you know, small amounts of investments that I was making. It all added up to that. But I mean, I felt like, okay, yeah, that is quite a bit of money, right? I know it's quite a bit of money, but for me, it wasn't, because I was like, I just don't care how much it's going to cost. I want to live out here, you know? I don't care what the upfront cost is, because I always heard this on YouTube, and they were like, everybody always talks about how, yeah, you know, like, it's always going to be more upfront, but then you get to save the money, like, in the long run. And so I wanted to be in this thing like if it was a marathon. So I figured, you know what, whatever my starting cost is, whatever, we'll pay for it. Let's do it. Let's try to make it happen. So I was in like 20 G's at the time, and at least I had solar, you know, and then I bought a refrigerator, you know, and then I was like, oh, at least I have food and I have a refrigerator. And and I have some solar that could charge. You know, I was just like, oh, okay, we can finally. I could start kind of moving in a direction, because prior to that, I mean, living a day here was like exhausting, because I mean, there was nothing. Everything is manual. It's like super exhausting, and just super like none of it was. It was so counterproductive. None of it was like, oh yay, like we actually did something. We actually got somewhere today. No, it was like, oh, we didn't even have enough electricity to do this one small thing that we wanted to do, or like, oh, like I need like 220 volts to run this thing. Okay, well, power tools are out of the question. So then I had to buy a generator, and the list goes on and on. Like from there, it was just like automatic. Like, what's the next problem? How can we solve it? What can we do to tackle this next project? What can we do to kind of, you know, delve into more research and try to see what more we could do. And it was exhausting, okay? Because I felt like there was no end to it. It was just an endless sea of information that I needed, apparently, to like actually just do this one thing that we want to do, right? What a complex idea. And I encourage everyone to look into it. You know, if you don't think that you can do it, you probably can't. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you, but at least you can try. And it's okay to fail, because I've done it. And everything that I've done is has been a living testament that there is progression, you know, that there can be a day that you do win, you know. And that's what I want to translate in this YouTube channel. I want to more or so just talk about like the behind the scenes stuff that not a lot of people like on YouTube want to talk about. Everyone wants to show you like they want to show you the works, and that's great, you know, because that's eye appealing. But I feel like nobody's saying the things that you need to know so that you can feel motivated to want to do something like this. And so that's the point of this channel. And I hope that you guys like can interact with this and can actually like kind of live inside my head and see kind of the process that I had to go through, or kind of the thinking process that you have to build in order to actually be able to function in a world like this. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Subscribe, like this video, share it, whatever, and let's see what we can do. This is more so like a social experiment. I want to see if I want to see how much that we can accomplish by sharing ideas and just being as upfront as we can about this thing called, you know, homesteading, called off-grid living, greening the desert, like there's so many concepts, that permaculture, all of it, raising livestock, like I want to delve into all of it. So this channel, that's what this is about. And so like I'm gonna be mixing it up. It's not just gonna be me talking all the time, but I do want to show you guys some of the things that I'm working on. As of right now, like tomorrow, I'll start posting about it, and yeah, like every video is gonna be super different. Like none of this is scripted. I don't really care about scripting none of this, or like editing none of it. Like I'm gonna just show you guys what's up. Like I'm gonna try to be as upfront as I can, and if you guys can like communicate with me and I can communicate with you guys, that's what the point of this channel is going to be about. Because like I said, everybody that I've seen is great what they're doing. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing what they're doing, how they're able to show you all the work that they're doing and how they're doing it, and like, but I don't want to focus too much on that, because there's already a lot of people doing it. So what I want to focus on is more of like I want to do podcasts about some of the topics that we could talk about, and just kind of do all that, plus show you kind of the mix of like, based on the research that I've done, what I'm doing with it and how I'm able to twist it and bend it and manipulate this information so that it can do something that I want it to do, so that I can get the result that I want to get. So I hope you guys enjoy. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.